Today is the second Sunday of Advent. It was lovely having Andrew with us last week. You may have seen on Facebook that Friday, Scottie and I went off to Oslo and visited with Andrew and Laura Kate and Fox and Evie and Lucy, their three children. We had a wonderful time with them. It was great to see the things God is doing with just in their neighborhood, in the schools, the people they're meeting. One of the fun stories was the ambassador from Macedonia. His son is friends with Andrew's son. And so they've gotten to know each other. And the ambassador came to Andrew and he goes, I heard what you're going to do here. I'm Muslim, but half of my staff are Christians, and I need to find a place for them to worship. And it's just that's the kind of experiences Andrew's having, where he said, look, we're not having to force this. It's like there's clearly a felt need. What's really interesting, too, when you see God doing the same thing, but in different places to different people, you kind of start to go, hey, I think God's up to something. And what's fun about the Macedonia connection, now, by the way, the ambassador connection is really common, and a lot of international churches will have ambassadors and political staff. It's just not common here because we're not in a capital. But for any of the capital cities, like when I was in Delhi the other day preaching there, they're right in what's called Embassy Row, where you've got the U.S. Embassy. The Norwegian Embassy, by the way, is quite big in India. I was quite impressed. But all these embassies are in there, and that's a lot of the foreigners that are there are diplomats. And so it's no surprise we expect this church to be reaching out to the diplomatic community in Oslo. It's one of the biggest international communities there. But Macedonia specifically, so this week, I appreciate your prayers. I'll be going down Tuesday to Brussels because Wednesday morning we have the annual European prayer breakfast. And one of the Parliament members of the EU has invited me to come down and be a part of that at Parliament in Brussels. And I'm not going to be the only international church pastor there because another pastor in our network, a guy named Marino, is from Macedonia, and he's based down in Skopje, I believe. If you don't know, it's North Macedonia is what we call it now. Europeans, you may remember it used to be called Fyrom. There's been a big argument between Greece and Macedonia over the years because Greece said Macedonia can't use that name, we trademarked it. And it was a big thing, but now they call themselves North Macedonia. So anyway, I was talking to Marino, and he's going to be at the prayer breakfast as well because he works very closely with a lot of politicians in Europe. And so I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. We've only met on the screen through MIC and virtual meetings, so it's going to be really great. But I thought how interesting that now we've got this ambassador from Macedonia reaching out in Oslo, and I told Marino that, and Marino said, oh, well, I want to follow up, and I want to meet with him next time he's back in Macedonia, because that's his ministry is with politicians. And so it's kind of going, this is one of the cool things about having a network that we can follow up, and the ambassador in Oslo can go home, and then we can follow up with him there, even with him being a Muslim. Marino said, oh, I want to reach out to him. So God is up to something there, and that's very exciting. But so we appreciate your prayers and your ongoing prayers for Andrew and Laura Kate. They're really settling in well. It was a joy to be with them. It's great the connections they're making, but like Andrew said last week, they can't do anything official because they don't have a visa, and it's not legal for them to start working. They can meet neighbors, they can have dinners, they can go to church, so they're visiting other churches, they're getting to know people. We had a great, one of the big reasons I went on Friday was because of the lunch that Francis Chan spoke at, and we had 100 leaders from Oslo. And I just went, oh, that's really efficient because I don't see a lot of these people very often, like leaders in the Baptist Union and others. And I thought it's good for me to see them, once a year at least, and I don't usually. And so I was able to meet up with a number of our friends and Christian leaders from around the country who were there. So that was really efficient. It was great to have Andrew to meet some of those people, some he's already met. But again, he can't actually do anything. He can meet, he can build relationships, but we've got to get that visa. So keep praying for them and for that visa to come through from UDI so that we can really kick things off there. With that, today being the second Sunday of Advent, we're going to have our second reading. But first, we're going to have a video, and then following the video, we'll have our reading and lighting the candle, and then a prayer, and then we'll resume our worship through music.